The murder of Penny Bell earlier this summer made national news headlines. Now, 3 months on, the motive for her death remains a mystery. By all accounts, she was a woman who had everything: a happy family life with her husband and 2 children, a large, comfortable home in Buckinghamshire, and a successful business career running the employment agency she had helped to set up. But on the morning of Thursday, June the 6th, she was found dead in her blue Jaguar outside a West London swimming pool. Actors take the parts of the family in our reconstruction, but her husband, Alistair himself, begins our film at the family's home in Denham.
Penny was a vivacious woman. She laughed a lot. She had a great sense of humour. She had a lot of personality, and she was very open, outgoing, gregarious. Far more so than myself, perhaps. I miss every aspect of our life together. The only way I can describe it is that she was the other half of my personal jigsaw. And to lose that is to lose everything, basically. And the reason for my life now is the children.
Hi. Hiya.
Penny usually arrived home from work at about 6 o'clock.
Oh, hi, darling.
2 days before her murder, a family friend, Victoria Bird, had been looking after 9-year-old Lauren.
Oh, I was really looking forward to that. I'll be glad when those builders are finished.
Oh, I know.
Dear, the
It's a
mess,
mess, isn't it?
Don't touch that, Lauren. There's lots of money in there. So what sort of day did you have today, then?
On the previous Monday, June the 3rd, Penny had withdrawn £8,500 from her bank. She'd never before taken out such a large amount of cash.
I can't believe it.
The day of Penny's death, Thursday, June the 6th, began as usual.
Bye, Mo. Bye, Mum. Bye, darling.
Bye-bye, darling. See you tonight.
I left the house at 8:30 with our son, Matthew, for me to go to the office and to drop him off on the way. We would always wave each other off, whoever was leaving. So Penny would always stand at the entrance to wave goodbye. On that particular morning, she didn't. But then the house was buzzing with people and there were lots and lots of things going on. It does leave a very strange feeling to kiss your wife goodbye at the door and say that you're going to see her again at 6:30 and, of course, never to see her again.
Donald, have you got anything to sort out with Penny?
Yes, Ben, I've got to sort out the detail of the electrical wiring in the kitchen.
Well, you'll have to be quick because I've got an appointment at 10 to 10 and I really don't want to miss it.
Well, I really need to know the fine detail because I've got to get the tile line and various things.
Can't you ring the kitchen designers?
Yes, I could do.
That's the best thing.
OK, then, that's what I'll do.
I thought you'd be able to do the wardrobes in the bedroom for a better price than what had been quoted
Well, OK, this is what I want.
Right.
It's so that the wood matches the cream of that wallpaper.
Right, OK. Well, this is sycamore.
Yeah.
I mean, you could use white ash. It would be the same colour, but it'd be a bit cheaper.
Oh, fine.
Yeah.
Good.
Should we go up and have a look? Yeah.
Right.
OK, but I must be quick.
Taking the wallpaper and woodblock samples with her, Penny left home at about 20 to 10.
Cheerio, I'm off now. If there's any problems, get Dave to ring me in the office.
This is Black Park in Iver, a 5-minute drive from Penny's house. And at just about 9:45, a woman walking her dog remembers seeing a man waiting in a bronze or brown-coloured car in a lay-by on Fulmer Common Road. Penny's usual route to her office in Kilburn was along the A40. But it was in Greenford, shortly before 10:30, that a lorry driver saw a car like Penny's. Chris Lamport remembers a blonde woman driving very slowly along Greenford Road. There was a male passenger.
She was looking as though she was trying to park the car, but the gentleman kept correcting her steering and kept making her carry on down the road. I presumed it was a new car for her, so she was learning how to cope with it. After a little while, it seemed safe for me to overtake, so I overtook. I saw a gentleman with his hand on the steering wheel, and he was wearing a gold chain on his right wrist.
A mile further up Ruislip Road East is Gurnell's swimming pool. After 10:30, several people remember seeing Penny's blue Jaguar in a secluded part of the car park. It's now less than an hour since Penny left home.
The attack took place in this car park. The police said that her assailant stabbed and slashed at her from the passenger seat with his right hand. He also got out and attacked her from the driver's side. She never stood a chance.
Penny's body was found at around midday by two women returning to their car. She was slumped over the steering wheel with blood all over her clothes.
Standing here in the Gurnell Leisure Centre car park with all these people and these cars about, it's hard to believe how a perpetrator with blood in his hands and all over him could simply disappear unnoticed from the scene of the crime.
Well, firstly, he wasn't wearing a pair of blue jeans. He was dressed in black, which, apart from his white shirt, blood would not show up clearly on. While this documentary appears to forget this, and that there was one eyewitness to the killer leaving the car park. In my opinion, before he started his attack on Penny, he would first overlap his blazer covering up his white shirt. It would explain how he semi-disguised himself, at least sufficiently enough to get to his nearby getaway vehicle.
At about 11:15, a man was seen leaving the car park. He looked unusually smart to be going swimming.
This suit is a costume to the killer. There is no way, if he planned to end up at Gurnell Leisure Centre, would choose to wear a suit. He would stick out like a sore thumb, and he did. This was a choice on his part to dress smartly. Considering Penny Bell was a businesswoman, and her encounters with clients were most likely all wearing suits, I think this is deliberate on the part of the killer. He's wearing it for Penny's benefit, perhaps to give the impression that their meeting is a mere formality.
And wasn't carrying any kit. One side of his face seemed disfigured in some way.
Unless this man is Frankenstein, I think it's safe to say that the disfigurement is on account of his face being mauled by Penny. From left to right, this is Penny's normal route starting from her home in Denham to her offices in Kilburn, North London. But on the day of her murder, she would take two unusual detours. The first being a 10-minute move in the opposite direction to Fulmer Common Road. After she left Fulmer Common Road, she headed back into her usual commute direction, but midway would take her second unusual detour, into Greenford. Many years later I have come back to the scene of the crime. If Penny's car was seen entering the car park at around 10:30 and the killer would be seen leaving at roughly 10:45, that means that the killer would have had 10 minutes alone with her in this blind spot. Considering he would start the attack from the passenger seat, get out of the car, walk around to the driver's window and continue his attack long into overkill. I think that the killer would have had 3 minutes maximum to walk from Penny's Jaguar to his getaway vehicle. I had always thought his car would have been parked in the same car park, but since he was seen leaving, that means it was parked elsewhere. From the direction he was walking in, I imagine it was across the road somewhere. This was a different time of course, and you could apparently park anywhere back in 1991. But with all things considered, it was a busy morning. To be undetected while blood splattered for the most part he would need to have parked within 2 minutes, so I will test now to see how far I get while walking as unsuspiciously as I can. After replaying this clip back, I noticed how prominent my breathing became after the first minute. For your consideration. with the killer inflicting over 50 stab wounds in such a short amount of time, against a woman that would put up a massive fight right up until the very end. Imagine his reality afterwards, exhausted, injured, and exiting the murder scene in the same breath. He would have been breathing like a ball.
At about the same time, Patricia Parry, an auxiliary nurse, was turning into Ruislip Road East.
There was a car I could see in the distance up Grinnell towards the swimming pool, really motoring it. And I thought, well, I'll get out before him, which I did. And as I was driving along the Ruislip Road, he was right up behind me. He flashed me, hooted me to get out of the way, and I was angry because he was just driving so fast. I thought, well, I'm not letting him pass. But I got a bit scared as we came up here. I thought, oh, forget it, Pat, pull in.
Penny's murder was discovered at 12 o'clock. She'd been repeatedly stabbed. The wallpaper sample was spread out on the centre console of the car. Her handbag was behind the front passenger seat with her purse still in it, but missing and still unaccounted for is the £8,500 in cash. But in fact, Mr. Edwards, you don't really believe robbery was the motive?
No, that's right. Although the £8,500 is still unaccounted for, and that's very significant, I don't think that robbery was the motive for killing.
In that case, do you think she knew her killer? Do you think there was a personal motive?
I think, judging from the nature of the attack, it's very likely that Penny knew her killer, and that's why we've gone to such lengths to build up her lifestyle.
Is there a side to Penny's life, then, that you don't know about, do you think?
Well, we have a home video of Penny, in fact, which is a very good likeness of her. And from all our inquiries that we've been able to make, we know that she was happily married, a successful businesswoman, and to all intents and purposes, no motive whatsoever for killing her.
So if anybody out there tonight does know more about her, please do ring us.
That's right.
Now, this is the wallpaper which was spread across the Jaguar's central console when she was found. What do you think the significance of that was? Why do you think it was open there?
Well, it was spread in such a way that she was either showing it to somebody or browsing through it, awaiting the arrival of somebody. We know that she'd shown it to a carpenter that morning to get a second opinion on the colour match, and what we're asking ourselves is whether she'd made arrangements to meet somebody else regarding the paper.
Certainly we know that she told the builder she had an appointment at 10 to 10, and that could very well have been the man that was seen in the lay-by at Fulmer Common Road.
Yes, the timing is certainly consistent with that, and also the witness is fairly confident that the woman she saw was Penny. If it wasn't Penny, then we would like to hear from both of the drivers for elimination purposes, obviously.
What was the description of the man the witness saw?
He was about 5'10" tall, 48 years old, medium build, light shirt and dark trousers.
The lorry driver's report of a woman and passenger in Greenford half an hour later also ties in time-wise, but what do you think was going on there?
It's very difficult to say. One interpretation could be that the driver was in serious difficulty in trying to draw attention to himself, or the other could be that it was some sort of an argument over a parking space. We need to hear from anybody who can shed light on that sighting, really.
And you're sure that the murder actually took place at the swimming pool car park?
Yes, that's the one thing that we can be sure of, and that being the case, we're very interested to hear from anybody who was in that car park between 9 and 12 who can tell us anything about that.
Right.
My mum was renowned for having beautiful long nails, and I just remember the police. I overheard them telling my dad that she had none left, that she had fought for her life. And in such a small car as well. The cabin of that car is very intimate. And I know that she would have fought, in such a way that it would have been ferocious.
It is widely assumed that Penny knew her killer. Had her funeral taken place within 2 weeks of the murder, I believe it's very likely the killer would have attended, because if he didn't, that, in itself would appear suspicious. The police could have used this to their advantage, and been on the lookout for men with scratch marks. Unfortunately, the funeral took place in September of that year, a whole 3 months later. A missed opportunity. Though, the information could still be useful.
Just days into the investigation, a revelation emerged which became the focus of the media, possibly to the detriment of the case and the search for Penny Bell's killer.
The papers began to report on what they called Penny's tangled love life. The specifics, though, referred to her husband's gay affairs. The whole story became tabloid fodder and proved to be hugely detrimental to the investigation.
He's bisexual. He'd met my mum when he was in a relationship with a man. My mum knew them both very well. They were all great friends. And the police quizzed him about this intently. They were absolutely, sure in the beginning stages that this must have been some kind of lover's tryst.
They gave him a very hard interview indeed, as long as they could, and by all accounts pretty aggressive. Initially, he was obviously the main suspect. He was cleared, but not after the fact of his past had been in the papers, which was, I think, a fairly deliberate leak at the time.
Every investigation into somebody's murder, you start looking as close as possible to who may be involved and why they might be involved. Alistair's relationship with Penny certainly did give reason to suspect him at that moment in time, and he was questioned extensively by the initial investigation team and subsequently ruled out of the investigation. So it did have an impact upon the investigation. It didn't have a major detrimental effect, because every investigation you've got to look at every lead and treat every person of interest as such.
But like me, most observers believe the decision to release the information about Alistair's private life was counterproductive.
It was absolutely irrelevant. If at any point I thought Alistair may have been involved in this, then I would say something. At no point have I thought Alistair was involved. He was a loving husband who got very, very well with his wife. He wasn't the person who would go and do this to his wife. It was someone else. It didn't happen from within the family.
When they released the details of Alistair's past, it really put such a sort of darkness on their marriage that actually wasn't there. Everyone who knows them said they absolutely adored each other. They were in love, and it didn't matter. Everyone has relationships in the past. It had no bearing on their marriage. They were really, really happy.
The story took away from the actual what it should have been about. But that was beyond the control of Alistair. There's nothing Alistair could have done about that. And Alistair did the best by his children as he could in those circumstances. It would have been very, very difficult for him. Not only has his wife been horrendously murdered, but now the press were kind of turning the camera on him. And it's wrong. It's absolutely wrong.
Perhaps it didn't help in this case, because they would waste time and resources going for something that actually was not relevant to it.
But while there was nothing in Alistair's personal life other than the information which caused such a distracting sideshow, I've begun to wonder if it was something in Penny's own private life which might have led to difficulties for her and ultimately to her death.
am not sure what to make of this John Richmond character. On the one hand, we are told his fingerprints were found in the car, on the other, the police say he is totally in the clear. Did they find separate prints which do not match his? I feel this is information the police should disclose. Since I first became aware of the Penny Bell story back in 2011, and that Richmond was listed as a person the police suspected, I had always wanted to see if he in any way resembled the artist's impression of the killer, which is in accordance with the eyewitnesses' accounts. Thanks to the most recent Sun article on Penny, we now get those images. Judge for yourselves. I am not sure when these pictures were taken, but the first thing that struck me was the hair. I think it is a match. I also think the eyewitnesses should be shown these images.
There were fingerprints found in the car, and they belonged to a man by the name of John Richmond.
John Richmond was a builder and former neighbour of Penny and Alistair when they lived in Harrow, northwest London. He was arrested and questioned twice, but was released without any further action.
3 years later, Richmond approached the Sun with a bizarre proposal.
He wanted £80,000 to reveal the truth about how Penny Bell was murdered, which clearly we didn't pay. But we led him on, and our reporter at the time, Rosie Dunn, went to meet Richmond in a hotel on a couple of occasions, where she secretly tape recorded him. This is not the sort of usual practice that a Sun reporter would adopt in terms of meeting someone that was offering a story, and I do stress that.
Richmond told the Sun he and Penny had been having a secret relationship, that it was he she was meeting before she died, and he who made the phone call that morning.
But he said he didn't kill her. He said that he kissed her goodbye, and the last time he saw her was as he drove off. She was combing her hair in the mirror.
Richmond also said he'd been approached by a man known to Penny who asked him to recommend a hitman. He claimed the contract was for Penny, but that he only realised as such after she was dead. The Sun handed the tapes of Richmond's recorded interviews to the police. He has never been charged with any crime relating to Penny.
However way you want to look at it, it was pretty disgusting to try and capitalise on Penny's murder. The story he came out with seems bizarre to say the very least.
I have been unable to find this Richmond article anywhere online. Perhaps it's being withheld as evidence, but I would like to analyse what little we can read in this short video. Firstly, I want to point out how ludicrous it is to suggest Penny was killed by a contract killer. Not only is the fact that Penny would be stabbed over 50 times an indicator of a crime of passion, I think the timing is another strong indicator of that. Think about it, if you were planning on killing someone, would you really pick broad daylight as a setting? Would you choose a busy swimming pool car park as the location? You get the impression that the killer was aware of Penny's schedule, and felt he only had a short window of opportunity to launch his attack. Secondly, is how he describes the relationship. While I think this affair story is a total fantasy on his part, he clearly plays it within the confines of reality. He admits to being with Penny in her car on the day of her murder. Though he stops short of admitting he did it, I think we can all agree that whoever was seen getting into Penny's car on Fulmer Common Road was the same man seen exiting the Gurnall Leisure Centre car park. That being said, I believe John. This quote is one of the few things that I think he is totally honest about. It is crucial to understanding him. It gives you the insight you need to understand a warped mind. He knows in himself that Penny didn't love him the way he loved her, and if he couldn't have her, no one else could.
I think she knew that something out of the ordinary was happening that morning. I think she knew who she was meeting, and I think she was anxious about the outcome or what was to happen. What that is, I honestly don't know. Who it was, I have a feeling as to who it might have been, but I don't know. But I think there was something that was pressing her that day that she obviously thought she could handle, and hence the fact didn't tell anyone about it. But I think she knew who she was meeting that day.
Any article I can find related to Penny's murder always mentions him. That is not accidental. I'd wager that whoever's at the heart of finding Penny's murderer also suspects him. Though each article has to include that he's been cleared by the police, presumably for legal reasons. But really, could a person more closely fit the bill? Family friend, fingerprints found in the car, partly motivated by money, mental case, admits to having passionate feelings for Penny that even in his delusions are not mutual. If you're watching, John, and you want me to take down this video, then get in contact. I'm a reasonable person. I'll settle for 80 grand. Or a confession.